Hi, I'm Yaena Kwon and welcome to a special feature on Warwick TV. When Jon Lee Anderson starts talking about his childhood, you might think that these are experiences that some people would only have much later in their life. He was born in the USA, and as a son of a diplomat and a writer, he grew up in many countries such as South Korea, Taiwan or Colombia. Today he is a staff writer for The New Yorker and the author of several bestsellers. So his early experiences of moving from one place to the other and adjusting to new cultural contexts has become very important for his career as an investigative journalist. He reported from several critical areas such as Afghanistan, Iraq and Israel. His work certainly involves dangerous moments as he writes about crucial topics, about the extremely difficult political and social conditions that he experiences at first hand. When I read his articles, I had the impression that they are not only informative, they are original stories, personal and full of details, which let me know that he gets very close to local situations. Jon Lee Anderson was here on Warwick campus, and I had the great opportunity to talk to him about his quite adventurous life and of course about his national bestseller, his biography of the world's most famous revolutionary, Che Guevara. It was a huge surprise when Jon Lee Anderson came to Francisco Goldman's book presentation at Warwick Arts Center a few days ago. Hi Jon Lee, thanks for coming. So what's your personal relationship to Francisco Goldman?
Oh, well, Frank and I go back many years. We first met when we were both young reporters in Central America. He was living in Guatemala and I was living in El Salvador next door, and we met when he made a trip to El Salvador. And over the years since, we became fast friends. We shared apartments together, been on trips together. He's the godfather to my eldest daughter.
Really?
Yeah, we see each other a lot. I was the best man at his wedding, and so forth.
Jon Lee, it wasn't long ago that you were on Haiti to report on the earthquake for The New Yorker. And actually you had already covered other natural disasters, like Hurricane Katrina. What kind of challenges did you have to work with while being in Haiti?
For me, the biggest challenge was in trying to find a story that I could tell the outside world, my readers, that went beyond the catastrophe itself, that didn't remain on the margins or in the with the sensation of the disaster. Because I know, I have experienced that, and especially with ones as devastating as Haiti's, that the public has become saturated very quickly, especially now with 24-hour news. And within a couple of weeks, there's a kind of tolerance level, and editors start calling the crews home. The last survivors have been pulled from the wreckage. There's no more dead to be found. That's kind of end of story. And so it's difficult, and it requires a force of will to keep going and to give continuity, which is something that's still on my mind. It's, in other words, what kind of follow-up can I do or should I do? But when I was there, the idea was, or rather my challenge was in trying to find a story that talked about the underlying Haiti, the Haiti that would endure beyond the earthquake, to find a story that somehow informed my readers about the country beneath the rubble, you know what I mean? And that was my challenge. So that was my primary concern when I was there.
I can imagine when you're surrounded by all the desperate and hopeless people and seeing all the misery, that people come to you and ask for help because they kind of know you're reporting for the US. How do you react in those situations when desperate people stand in front of you and ask you for help?
I try to help. If you're in a situation where people's survival is a question, I think you have no choice. You have a moral and ethical obligation to assist. You have to leave your journalistic ethics of objectivity or equidistance somewhat on the sidelines. You have to know when the appropriate moment arrives. You have to be ready for it. If you leave your humanity aside for a key moment, you can do a great deal of damage, most of all to yourself, not to mention leaving the people that could be helped by you in continued need. So it's kind of an accidental path, but when there's need all around you too, you have to be selective. You can't help everybody. Someone asked me this question recently because I ended up writing about a young woman I found who was walking across Port-au-Prince, and I'd seen her in the morning, and I saw her 5 hours later, and she seemed to be leading a small group of youngsters behind her, and I stopped to ask her what she was doing. And she spoke English, curiously enough. She'd lived in the United States. It turned out she'd been deported from the United States. Okay. And she was looking for food from the American military. And I was driving a pickup truck. So I told her, I said, well, let's see if the American military are handing out food. And they weren't, but the Dominicans were. Anyway, I ended up writing how she then got in the truck and we went and they gave her food. The point being that, yeah, I intervened somehow in the story. Someone asked me in Boston not too long ago how I felt about that. And they gave me the example of an American journalist who was doing a story on immigrants who, at one moment when she was with them, they came to a crossroads where they couldn't read the signs, the street signs. So they asked her to read the street signs for them. And she refused because she said that would intervene in the story. And I thought frankly, I thought that was ridiculous. Although in that situation, her denying them that information on the basis of some putative journalistic ethic didn't cost anybody their life necessarily. I don't know if Nadia Francois or her people would have died, but they'd been many days without food. And what was I supposed to do? Drive behind them as they walked another 3 miles to where the Dominicans were handing out food with my pickup truck empty?